Okay, guys, so this is a little bit of a test run. Don't know what that does. I'm sharing my screen and I've opened up Patterns for Jazz, which I loved this when I was 15, 16. I got hold of this. Just the cover. I love the style of the cover, and yeah, it just looked like the business for treble clef instrument patterns for jazz. Jerry Coker, Jimmy Cassell, Gary Campbell, and Jerry Green. This is one of the books to have, along with books like the Charlie Parker Omnibook, which I devoured. I went through it. It was difficult to play things the way Parker played, but it taught me how to take little lines and licks that he had and accommodate them for the harmonica, which was better in a way because it really, instead of just copying, I kind of developed a harmonica language. Uh, so it really helped in that respect. And so don't ever think that because you can't play something or it doesn't sound, it's too difficult. You can move notes around. You can use the same kind of ideas but change rhythms or move things around because some things sound good on one instrument and then they don't work so well on another. Everything seems to phrase okay on a guitar, but things that work on a violin might not sound good on a harmonica. You can't. I mean, you can't bend notes on a piano, for example, can you? Really? And as soon as you hit the note, so every note, every instrument is different. Anyway, I'm digressing. So here we are, Pattern for Jazz, the intro, uh, and it goes. It will talk to all. I'll just move myself a little bit over there. Got major triads. It goes through everything. Triads, basically one, two, three, the first, third, and fifth of a chord. So it talks you all through these things, and to never be in a rush. I mean, you could start anywhere in the book you wanted. You could start Lydian augmented scale. You could look at that. You can look anywhere. I'd recommend just do what I'm doing now. Go through all of the look through all of the different uh, the contents, see what's there, just get yourself familiar with that. Major triads, major sixth chords, major seventh and ninth chords, major scales, digital patterns. Just take that in because that's once over that your mind has taken these things in. And so it does kind of go up. I suppose it's difficulty and conceptual understanding, but I just say never be in a rush to do anything in music and just playing really long notes. I mean, intermediate players want to be able to play technically and very, very quickly and fast. But virtuoso players or the very well founded players, they use that stuff, but that's not where it's at. I mean, they can play it, but it's what's behind them. So it's, I mean, the long notes for me is just getting basic notes and ability to play a tone without with control. That's basically where it's from. Moving from what the harmonica bass is, playing a nice sound, one note at a time, if that's what you want. Moving from one note to the other. That's basically all you have to do. Introduction would be very interesting to read. As we go through this, I used to love because back in the 80s, you were kind of isolated. I had some friends who played jazz, and we'd get together and that. Hello, Mala. Shout out to Mala and Paul Hollis if he's around, and all of those guys. Gary Harris on piano. Vic Christian, yeah, of the Christians, if anyone's watching. But it was nice to be able to get something like this and go home and read through it. And at night, you'd have it on your book, your bedside table, and you could read through that. And I'd be listening to things, Charlie Parker and all that. And it was really good at inspiring you because we didn't have it. I was lucky, I think, that we didn't have the profundity of information that we have now. Okay, so we start off with major chords and major scales. I'll play through this. So these numbers here, they don't represent the harmonica, they represent degrees of the scale. So the first degree, you know, debatable, isn't it? I suppose. Yeah, you get to. It depends where you start, whatever the degree is. Then he talks about the C major scale. Then he gives you a triad here, and I'd recommend just reading through it, playing through it with your harmonica, get your guitar or your piano as well, or sing it. Then the next one. It's also good to be able to hear and isolate intervals. So I know that interval because to me that's my bonnie lies over the ocean, or it's when sunny gets blue. 4 days of riding noses. So yeah, it goes through all of these charts. They kind of confuse me when I see them, so I don't know if it's, what is it saying, chord tonal, major scales of chord, roots, A, D, G, C. Yeah, that looks a bit too convoluted to me. I don't really need to know that, but I might be wrong. Here's C major 9. Do, 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 da, 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 do, do. And that's the melody to I Love You Porgy. So what's the need to, for me, that's a beautiful little expression of music. Intermediate players very often want to get from bar 1 to bar 200 without stopping. And don't worry if you step in a puddle on the way through it, just keep going on. But to me, I like to take one thing and isolate it and spend time with it. I mean, you can spend a long time just making each note really beautiful. So now it goes here, chord roots. The root is the bottom note. It's got the same thing. It's telling you, I'm pointing. You can't necessarily see. I'll point the cursor. So do 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 da 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 do. Is that right? Sorry. Do 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 da 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 da. It was the octave. I was trying to think octave in my head, but I sang the wrong note. I think I sang the ninth. Now we're going to have the sixth. Da da. I'll just get that in my head. So that's the my bonnie. Do 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 da 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 da. Now we're going to have the seventh. Do 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 da do da. I can't think of a melody for that. What is it? There's a place I love. There's someone Mala. Tell me melody that begins with. I can't think of a melody that begins with that actually. Mala, can you help me out there? So now we're on to the first exercise, and I'll shift my ugly little face over to this side. Now, it's got a tempo marking between 60 and 120. I wouldn't take that too seriously. Just find something very, very slow and easy. Sometimes you can play in slow motion in music. Just slow everything down, and you don't even have to bother with the rhythm at the beginning. So the notes are. Okay, so but now just to look at the rhythm, it's got a triplet followed by a triplet followed by 2 whole notes, or that's called a semi-breve. Is that correct? Semi-breve. Breve's the longest one, then a semi-breve. Yeah. So we'd call it a half note in American parlance, yeah, which I kind of prefer. So this rhythm now, even without playing the melody, you can just go da 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 da. Then you can put the notes on top. You don't have to go too fast. And what you could actually do, you could mix 2 little practice things here. You could mix maybe doing a vibrato thing where you go. See, I've got a little triplet thing going on. There's different ways to do it. You could go with your hand. You're on 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, or with your voice box. or your diaphragm. Whichever way you want to do it. So I'll just play through that slowly now. So I can play the triplet, and then on the half notes, I can play the vibrato triplet. So that would keep me in time, really. I'll start off with the vibrato. And that's kind of how, get my breath back, that's kind of how I would go through it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. The idea really is it's kind of a Pavlovian thing, that you're seeing the chord symbol, and then, okay, so I did that pretty easily, I suppose. But when you first go through it, it might be a struggle. You've got to just learn a pattern. So the last one that they give you is the D pattern, the D major. Then what you've got to do, your brain's going to have to do some work here. It's going to be tricky at the beginning, depending how fast you are. You're going to have to shift everything from D to E flat. So you're going to have to think upper semitone. And then you've got to keep that in your mind and shift up to E. You've got no other point of reference. I would recommend don't write anything down. Just try and do it, no matter how difficult it is. You're going to have to keep going back to D, I suppose, maybe even back to C. What I'd like to do one day is maybe do a live thing where we can work through it together as a kind of guided practice thing, live guided practice thing. But that's part of the thing, you know. You're reinforcing. D's going to be your last stronghold. Then you can get to the E flat, and then you've got to shift it from E flat to E. Some people will find it easier than other people. Some people will be more experienced. But I just say bear with it, and don't be in any hurry to go through these. Don't, if you can, blast through them. But if you just look at one for a week or 2 weeks, that's fine as well. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now because I'm waffling. So over and out. I'll just play you till before it. Bit ropey. Over and out. See you guys. How do I stop recording? Recording is there.